make Northern Ireland puppets for their games. They said that before.
Hi, we're live there. We're just come into the discussion. Sorry, folks, we're a bit late. We're talking
Okay, so you're
about
going ahead now, are you?
we're live. Yes.
Right,
Uh,
okay.
welcome aboard, folks. We're a wee bit late, but we were talking about Brexit there, and the news is going on this week. Having a bit of a chat about the withdrawal agreement. The talk is that
Yeah.
the EU and the so-called nationalist parties in the north and everywhere else are not happy with that. Karen, you had some strong words about that. What were
Well,
you
I think
saying?
it's wrong that Northern Ireland is used as a pawn for the EU to keep Northern Ireland into the EU. They haven't allowed them to leave,
Yeah,
and they're trying to use the border as an issue. And I know the DUP have come out and said they don't want the Northern Ireland to be their pawn. And I think it's unfair for anyone who said yes to a Brexit 4 years ago. They've been saying
yeah,
yes now for the last 4 years.
yeah.
So I think Northern Ireland should be left alone. They've said yes
It's
to
like
a
it's been
Brexit.
used.
And
It's like it's been used as the bargaining chip. It's like
yeah, well,
it's
it's
like
like a bargaining chip. And I don't
it's
see
like
why
it's like
they
the
just can't
problem
let them
child.
go. Sorry?
No, it's terrible. Why don't they just play fair and just let Britain go? Just they voted out. Let them go. They've done they've took a vote in good faith, but they just won't. They won't do that. They won't play fair. Um, I mean, and somebody made the comment last week. The Irish border, of course, is weaponized as usual. Or I made that comment, but somebody was saying, you got a French person and a Spanish person and a Belgian today was talking about it.
Mm, mm.
They're just
They're
interfering.
interfering.
They're just
Yeah.
interfering
They're
on what
interfering
is,
in an Irish problem,
yeah,
and we should be able to solve it ourselves. And I think, I mean, the partition has been on now over 100 years, and the fact that the Irish, the Good Friday Agreement, have got rid of that border, and we've lived peacefully the last 22 years now. I think to keep the border out and let us get on with it, and let Irish government and Northern Irish government kind of work it out between us and have no interference from the EU.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
it. They should be
yeah,
allowed to leave. And if you see all these immigrants coming into England and they're not refugees, they're trying to get in before the borders close down. That's all going on in the background, and England is going to be flooded with all of that unless they stop it themselves. So the whole rig of problems going on before the end of the year. So I mean, the interference, the right, England is right to get out of Europe, and the fact that the interference is really stepping up,
well, Britain,
good few
Britain,
steps.
Britain is, but let's be technically correct. It's the UK, which does include Northern Ireland for this at this point. So yes, but you're right. They won't let them leave. I mean, what your woman today, Ursula von Leyen or whatever her name is,
Yeah.
talking down on almost in desperate. She's been like desperate about it, saying that the crucial thing about this is protecting the peace process. I mean, I find that outrageous. I find that a real. How can she be so patronising? It's very condescending to people that live up north. I mean, I know we both live in the south, but
Yeah.
it's patronising for them to talk to the people that live up in the north. Um, that this is about the peace process because it was not the EU were nothing to do with the peace process with the Good
Yeah.
Friday Agreement, and how can it harm a peace process to have some customs declarations going on between north and south? It won't even be policed at the border. How can that? They're just using the peace. They're using this peace process. They're using Northern Ireland as a chip, a bargaining chip, as you said.
Yeah.
It's just outrageously um, condescending of these EU people to talk about that. It's got nothing to do with them, really. I know they're trying
Mm,
to sticking their oar in, like, because they're protecting their interests, as it were. But
mm.
it just makes it crystal clear that the answer would be to the whole thing would be better if we had an air exit, and then the problem would be all over. I know we talked about it. I just think Boris Johnson should stick to his guns and
Yes.
see down the naysayers and just say, if you want to put a border there, go ahead, force them to do it. But I don't think they will. What do you think about that?
I don't think they will either. I think they're just trying to force
Yeah,
Boris Johnson not to go ahead with the Brexit and, trying to delay tactics. But I'm worried about the fact that, the EU, the Good Friday Agreement was made between our government and the government at the time in the North in 1998. And that was hard work, and it brought peace, and it's still there, thank God. And we enjoy it. And anyone going up to North and South, between shopping and work and, that kind of stuff, that's gone on now for the last 22 years. And long may it continue. And I think the interference coming from Ursula is, it's kind of last bit ditch bully tactics, frighten them to think that if it went ahead, if Brexit went ahead, and the North would just fall, and there'd be borders there everywhere, and we wouldn't, the movement of goods and people would stop, because that means there'd be patrols around there. It's to frighten the Northern Irish people as well, which is wrong, because they've enjoyed the peace for so long. And suddenly they're going to be thrown into some kind of imaginary war, which we don't want. And nobody wants that.
It's like the bogeyman at the bottom of the garden. It's like they keep saying, oh, but what about the border? Or what about solving or upsetting the peace process? But it's not. They keep talking it up. It's a made-up problem. It's not going to disrupt peace. They're almost talking it up, provoking people to start up, like a threat in a way. It is bully boy tactics, and it's quite disgusting. I find it absolutely disgusting at these people from mainland Europe who know nothing about what's going, the sensitivities of things in the north.
And the history.
Exactly, yeah. They know nothing about it. They're pontificating about it. I just find it outrageous. I mean, they should just keep their blinking noses out of the thing, and let Britain leave the EU as they voted for, and why don't they just be fair and play sporting, and they voted out, let them leave, but they don't, you see, because they know everybody else will want out too. But anyway, that was in the news today. That was in the news today, but it's been going on for a few weeks, that whole Boris Johnson deal. I think he's right. I think the deal originally was wrong. It was too weak, but they have introduced a kind of a backstop. But then you see, the EU don't like this sort of backstop insurance policy. That's all it is. It only is an insurance policy, unless they don't get a decent deal. But the EU don't like it when it's against them, Anyway.
I mean, the peace, with the IRA and splinter groups that go around that. I mean, you don't want them stoking their fire either, because they thought there was a border and there was that kind of thing going on. They might think, oh God, we're under threat, and then they'll start off maybe unnecessary violence as well in time. Not me now, but in time, if that happened. I mean, that's all it'll take, is the threat of a border, and maybe the Northern Irish be still in the EU, and we don't want that either. So I think they don't know how to respect the wishes of the British or Northern Irish people, and they don't know the history and what it took for our government to sit down in 1998 to do what they did. And it just goes to show you how much we need to get out ourselves, because I mean, our ties to England from a trade point of view, despite our history, has been very positive. And we need to continue that kind of relationship when Britain leaves. I mean, it's a good way of hopefully pushing that our exit policy.
And I mean, it's just double talk from the so-called nationalist parties in the north. It's just vague double talk they come out with all the time. The trade is done between both parts of the island, north and south, is done with the UK. It's an export economy. So the trade between the north and Britain is 11-2 of what it is with down south. So why would you be putting a border between the north and Britain? That's where its trading partner is. Now, that's not to say you don't put one on the south either. Nobody wants that either. But if it's a choice between two, there shouldn't be any border between Ireland, a trade border between Ireland and Britain, because that's where the two big markets are.
Yeah.
Far bigger than what's in mainland Europe. The whole thing with the EU is talked up. It's talked up as far more important than it is. But that's that one. Okay, look, we've been very busy. It's been a long, hot summer of campaigning. And the party itself,
we had a bit of a holiday, though.
We had a bit of a holiday, yeah. But we've had We've had a few. It's been very positive on the whole, but we've had a few bumps along the road as well. But
Mm,
our membership, the party's membership, has gone through the roof. So for those people that are against us, we'll have to really give them a bit of a thank you, because they're pushing the membership through the roof, and it's very hard for anybody to
the
keep up
irony of
with it.
it.
But yeah, well, that's what they're doing. They're swelling our numbers, because
Mm.
some of the attacks that were happening north and south against people in a Democratic Party are just beyond the pale. But that's how certain people like to attack free speech, isn't it?
Mm. Well, I mean, we're going into too much detail. I mean, our right to organize and to have free speech and to assemble, it was under threat there recently. But that didn't stop us. We just had to regroup and rethink our security and stuff like that, and kind of like take time out and rethink about how we organize in future. It hasn't put us off. We're back out again in Louth, and also in the north, and as we move forward, because I think if we didn't do that, if we don't do that, then our enemies are going to win. And I think it's very important that we got out there fairly quickly, not too quickly, but quickly enough to let them know that we are not going away. And then we have a message out there for the north and the south residents, because
Well,
there's a lot going on.
I mean, it's obviously. I mean, we've been up and about and all around the north, and it's demand orientated. There's a massive demand for our party and for our party's message. I mean,
Yeah.
we're getting requests to come in all over the north, and we're
Yeah,
not going to
which is quite
go.
recently, yeah, which is
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I mean, it's phenomenally encouraging. But the party is. I'd be confident if there was an election soon that we would probably end up getting some representation. I think people are just so fed up with cultural Marxism that's going
Yeah,
on. We're getting that north and south. You know, the so-called nationalist parties are just nothing but the veered. I mean, Michael Leahy did a very good piece on it. Ireland's lurch to the left, you know, and we were on
yeah,
holiday there, and the only debate that you will get in Ireland now is between the centre left and the far left.
yeah,
There's no centre as parties. There's no
yeah,
centre right. I mean, our party is, I would describe it as, there's lots of people on the left in the party, in the Freedom Party, and there's people sort of more on the centre right. But most of the policies are very reasoned, very well thought out. There's nothing extremist about them.
no,
But the extremists are on the left wing. They're the ones that don't want you to have a voice at all. And if anybody says anything that suggests that you're on the right of centre, you're almost like showing the door. It's almost like a cold house for debate, isn't it?
yeah. And then this thing about being called far right, which we had to deal with, and we don't know if we dealt with it very well in a very appropriate way.
Yeah,
I think without being I say negative, we have to stand up for what we believe in, but also stand up for when people, the media in particular, come out with comments about any nationalist party calling us the far right, because that's not right either. And we
yeah, and
don't do extreme. We don't do
that,
extreme. We're not racist in any way. We don't do any neo-Nazi kind of policy. We're very
yeah,
much a controlled immigration policy.
yeah,
When regarding the control of the immigration, I mean, we've seen a lot of people coming into this country. We have a situation now in Louth where we have a rich tycoon coming in who wants to
yeah,
set up a city in Louth. We don't know the exact location, but I
yeah,
mean, that is wrong in itself. It's a plantation, a very quick plantation. It's not
yeah,
just a gradual thing that happens over years. It's like we bring these
yeah,
people over. We built a city probably over 20 years. And next thing
yeah,
you know, you've all these people who are not living in this country. They have no allegiance to Ireland, and they don't know
yeah,
its history. And they have a city right in the middle of two major towns in the northeast, which really we need to highlight to the
yeah,
residents in Louth. And because it's not just about Louth. When you do it in Louth, you could do it in other counties. It could be Cork next time. It could be
yeah,
the Midlands next time. So while we're going to campaign against it in here, we're talking about the whole of the country, because Ireland is not for sale. It's
yeah,
not up for auction and saying, listen, there's a plot of land, you buy that, you buy your city and plant your people in there, and then it doesn't really matter what the Irish people want, because that land is ours. The
yeah,
land is there for housing, agriculture, infrastructure. I mean, at the moment, Drogheda in particular, has suffered a great deal in regards to infrastructure. A lot of people leave Drogheda to go to work every day. We've no real industry as such. We've no colleges, we've no trains, no major housing. There's loads of things that Drogheda needs. It's the biggest, fastest growing town in Ireland. Several times, the Drogheda City Status Group have tried to make Drogheda a city, and it has failed. And now we know why. Because the government is never going to do it as long as the city is in the planning. And we need to talk about that as well. We need to campaign against it.
When I first heard that story, I just thought it was a bad joke. I couldn't honestly believe that they were suggesting that. I thought it was like one of those. It sounded like one of those April Fool things that they were talking about a couple
fake
of years.
news.
That they were going to bring a city away, but it just shows you the absolute contempt that the government of this country think of the people, and that they treat them with such disregard. That nobody's consulted about that. I mean, as if things aren't bad enough, they're just going to literally plant, as you say, 50 to 100,000 people into a neighborhood. It just seems absolutely outrageous. They're talking about, oh, this is going to bring benefits, economic benefits, but no, I wouldn't accept that. What would you think? I think it needs to be just challenged and protested. You cannot have that. The country is rapidly going down the tubes, I think.
I don't recognise my own county or my own town anymore. But I mean, you mentioned economic benefit. It would bring economic benefit, but that overshadows the culture, the land, the people. We need to grow Ireland. You know, we need to grow Ireland, and that's not happening. And our birth rate is going down. It's like, you know, we're not replacing Irish people with Irish people. It's an ongoing problem. It's actually fast growing. We're seeing a good fast growing, say, immigration coming in compared to, say, probably England 50 years ago. It's faster growing than it would be normally, and that needs to change as well. We need to have controlled immigration, and we need to encourage Irish couples to have children, but that's not happening either. It's actually quite expensive to have a child in this country, you know, between, you know, education, the crash, running the house. It's an ongoing problem. I see it among my own colleagues at work. You know, nothing is free. It's not like you have to work. The woman can't stay at home if they want to. It's like you have to work just to bring up one child, never mind 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. You know, gone are the days when women could have the 4 children or the 3 children or the 5 children. It's only 2 children, so it's like, you know, we can't grow our own population because it's not financially viable. So how are we going to get around that problem?
I couldn't believe that they were coming up with something as outrageous as that. You know, I mean, when we were campaigning on the election campaign, there were people from the Polish community and stuff coming up to us saying that they were glad to hear a party like us was emerging, because even them that have been here for a while feel part of the country and they're integrating well, and they don't like to see this mass uncontrolled immigration either, you know. But so I think it's not even, you know, it's about the people that are actually living in the country now are going to feel very threatened by just bringing in 50,000 people from elsewhere. I mean, it's not even a xenophobic. It's just it's how can they consider that? You know, it's beyond me that they would do that. I mean. Ireland is not for sale. It's not a colony, and it can't be. We know all about. We've had a bad history of the culture getting pushed out. That's just going to shove it out the window. Anyway, that's that one. We've chatted about that. There's a couple of people in there making comments.
Right, you can see them.
Can't think of any huge areas that could do it in Mid-Louth. Well, they're talking about Dunleer, isn't it? Is it Dunleer?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, they can't really we'd have to have it between the 2 towns, and the land is there. It's just that we're not sure where exactly. I mean, Dunleer is a small town compared to, say, Drogheda, and then you have Castle Bellingham and you have Blackrock and places like that. But I mean, have to have a lot of land to build that kind of city, and I imagine it'd be kind of like a smart city. It wouldn't be just an ordinary city. It'd be very structurally planned, and very much like a future city, if you know what I mean. And that'd be out of conjunction with an Irish town. I mean, an Irish town is made up of shops and pubs and restaurants and parks in an Irish way. So we completely at odds with the aesthetics of Ireland. And then,
Yeah.
then they go on to have children, and then they, you know what I mean, and the
When you got
population will
planning, you
grow.
got planning regulations. It couldn't possibly get past planning regulations either. There's all sorts of things. I mean, we just have to hope that it'll not happen. But
Yeah, but we have to highlight it all the same.
absolutely, yeah,
Um,
absolutely. But anyway, look, we've been very busy throughout the summer, as we said, with the canvassing and getting new members in, which is, and we had our summer meeting, of course, which was a great success.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but just to touch a wee bit, the yellow vest movement, it's been quite busy as well, and all these sort of the lefty lunatics have been talking about the rise in fascist activity, and they're lumping us in with the yellow vests and stuff. But just to be clear, the yellow vests are a separate entity from the Irish Freedom Party completely.
Yeah,
We're a
yeah,
totally different organisation. They're not a political organisation, whereas we are.
yeah,
And we do not have any relationship with them at all. Now, some of our ex-members are in there, and that's fair enough. But we do not, we're not anyway a front for them, or they're not a front for us. Some of
yeah,
them,
yeah.
a lot of their people may vote for us. Some of them may not, but some of them will. But
Mm,
that's neither here nor there. They're highlighting issues about COVID mainly, and we've got a wider political
yeah.
spectrum than they have. Any comments on that? You know quite a lot about the yellow vests.
Well, I've great respect for the people who organise it, and it's great to see them grow. And they're certainly getting momentum in the last, really since July. They're also getting a bit of sap. They're getting they're growing their people and their followers. But they're conscious of the fact that yes, they are a movement, and they will always go with what's going on at the moment. So their issues will always flow with what's going on, like COVID, like free speech, freedom of movement of people, and that's what we stand for as well. But when you're in a political party, our policies are they're quite well, it's fluid to a certain extent, but they're kind of they're static in the sense that we stand for an Irish exit, and while we're pushing that, we have to make sure the party grows. And what I'm finding is that maybe sometimes when you're growing a young party like ourselves, we're only 2 years old, so we have to kind of get the name out there. So the amount of canvassing we're doing has to kind of push that name, and also to identify candidates and identify good canvassers, north and south. So that's what we're
Yeah,
trying to do. So while it's great to go to a rally, and I'm not knocking them, I think it's brilliant. I think it's a lot of hard work to get that involved, to get that organised.
yeah.
But we need, all members in the Irish Freedom Party to be out canvassing across the country, get organised. It means it doesn't have to be every Saturday, it could be every second Saturday or whenever you're available.
Yeah,
But when we're organising, in a few different places,
yeah,
the message is always a little bit different in the north than it is in the
yeah.
south. So you have to kind of tailor your message, because obviously north is going through, a lot at the moment, and we're going through our own. We have to push the Irish exit message all the time, the
But,
immigration and
but
all of that. So
I think in the north, what we're getting though is a great desire for a party that's not globalist and for a party that's not
yes,
cultural
exactly,
Marxism
and very
from
very much
from
local.
the nationalist side, because the nationalist people don't have anybody to vote for like that, whereas the unionists do kind of, but the nationalists don't, because the SDLP and others are just uh, global Marxists, globalist
Mm.
cultural Marxists. Somebody is asking a question there: is the party sectarian, or is it open to Irish men and women? Well, I've answered. I says, of course, it's open to men and women. As you can see, the two of us talking here, and it is totally non-sectarian. There are people with different religions and none in the party. And is the party aware of the true structure of corporate government? I would say so. Yeah, we both live
What
in the.
else question there?
Is the party aware of the true structure of corporate government? I would say so. Yeah,
Yes.
we both live in the republic, so I think we both know quite a lot about the government and the
Mm.
corporate and input into the government. I would say so. Yeah, the politicians in the Dáil have betrayed the Irish people. That's true. I think the
Mm.
politicians in the Dáil completely hate the Irish people. Same
Yes,
as
pretty
same as
much so.
same as the left wing, the left wingers. But just
Yeah,
on
and
the
that's
yellow,
disappointing. I mean, the left wingers really have turned against us. I mean, both of us have come from a left wing kind of background, and I've seen a complete turnaround. I mean, even in the last, they've gone very anti-life. They're pro-choice. Now they're anti. They're looking for a euthanasia thing. Have you seen the news yesterday? Gino Kenny was coming out with Gail O'Rourke and a few other people, Tom Curran, who have a history. Their mother, his wife, actually was very ill, and I kind of get you want to kind of take the pain away if you're terminally ill, and I get that, but it's a very difficult subject to kind of, to just not discuss, but kind of like to sell, in a sense that if you want people to take control of their life, they have to kind of do it in a dignified way. I'm not sure about euthanasia. The same way I'm definitely not sure about pro-choice, abortion, or against that, obviously. But the left have completely gone against the people. Completely. They're not with, they were what I thought was 5 years ago. They're not with Irish people. They're very much LGBT, in a sense that everything is like liberal. There's nothing national about them at all. They've gone off the track whatsoever. And it's very sad because I came from that area and I've seen such a turnaround, especially in the last, say, 3 or 4 years, really. And also the threat of our protests actually have come up in the last 24 hours, where we've been told that the government give our rights. So they think they gave us our inalienable rights. Now, anyone who doesn't understand what an inalienable right is, that's something that was there always. Our constitution probably outlies all of our rights, but it doesn't give us our rights. They were there already. So the right to protest, the right to free speech, it's there anyway. Our government doesn't give it to us. Now, luckily enough, we do have a constitution here, unlike England, but we're lucky we have one here. But now Simon Coveney is coming out in the last 24 hours and saying that we have to balance our right to protest against law and order. Now, the protests have been going on in the last number of months, or since July. They're peaceful. The only way there's trouble at them is coming from Antifa.
Yeah.
And that's not Yellow Vest or anyone who attends those rallies.
Yeah.
People who go to these rallies are peaceful protesters.
I mean, one of our volunteers that was with us last week made the point that see some of these Antifa types that they're just paid to protest and paid.
Oh, I understand. Absolutely, I get it. Yeah.
Paid to attack their own people, and I mean the thing about them is they think they're so left, they're so edgy and so anti-establishment when they're not. They're just completely pro-establishment. They're just
and very young as well. Yeah.
So the young people used to be quite. They're not being rebellious at all. There's nothing rebellious about giving the government line. We're giving a sort of an anti-establishment line. Somebody's just asking the question there: are men and women born in Ireland or migrants also? Are migrants welcome? Well, I said if they're pro-Ireland and pro-Irish culture, well then yes, sure. What would you say?
And also, have they got a skill? So if you have a man and a woman coming in and say they had a skill of some sort, maybe they were a construction worker, or they were a solicitor, or they were a doctor or a nurse. Maybe plenty of people coming in to have a skill. But if you're coming in just to buy off the state, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but if you and our state is given these things too freely, it's a policy that's actually causing the problem. So you can't really blame the immigrant as coming in for a better life. But I would rather if an immigrant came into this country and gave a skill, provided a skill, whether it's a nurse, a doctor, a solicitor, construction worker, an engineer, they're willing to work. They're willing to work, because the Irish people, when they emigrated, worked. They went to America, they went to Australia, went to Canada, England. They worked. They worked 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah.
So it's not as though we haven't made an effort. And you always get that kind of like that line that's saying, well, Irish people emigrated too. So, yeah, but the difference is we didn't sponge off any state in another country. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Between there's somebody coming in and is doing it here.
But I mean, Nigel Farage is doing a very good, honest job. He's showing all the boatloads of ones coming over. I mean, nobody knows who those people are, and when they're coming in, they're getting taken to a 4-star hotel. So the Irish people that went to Australia and America and all that never got took to 4-star hotels. Anyway, somebody's saying here, Irish replied there, and they're saying excellent. He's very impressed with the Freedom Party. That's very good. Glad to have you on board. I see DT's in there. Good man, DT. Any comments that you want to make?
right.
Just fire them in. We'll hopefully get a little bit of maybe a stream with him. He's been out of action for a while, but
Yeah.
it'll be good to have him
I haven't
back
seen
on
him in a
board.
while.
Yeah. But no, somebody said Antifa look fascist to me. Yes, they remind me of the Gestapo, the sort of secret police coming around just battering anybody who's got a different political opinion, you know.
Well, I think the good thing about it is that people are not put off by going to the rallies because they're there, and that's a good thing, whether it's north or south. They're not as big in the north, but no, they're kind of they join up with the other groups like Red Flame, Saru, IOSP. There's different groups up in the north compared to the south, but they're all joining together. Now that can be intimidating to some, but the yellow vests are going ahead and they're doing. They need to keep doing that, and that's important that they're not intimidated and stopping the rallies. The rallies are important, but so is the Irish Freedom Party, and we need to keep organising and getting new members involved and canvassing because we're getting ready for Stormont. We're getting ready for any time the Dáil. If this government falls, it could fall now and 5 years' time. We need to be ready. We can't be going to what we've done in January.
It nearly fell last night with all the cabinet being suddenly out of action, didn't it?
I know, Stephen Donnelly, and then that in itself is a problem because look how quickly he got tested.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I would get tested very quickly because I work in a hospital, but an average person on the street could be waiting a few days, and he got tested in a few hours. I know he's a government official. It doesn't matter. Not everyone is treated the same way, and people are not getting the results quickly enough. You know, and if you want to do a proper testing system, you test, you trace, and you quickly give results, the right results to the right person, and then get this. I mean, it is a case-driven system they're doing. They're getting worried about the cases and not looking at the low deaths. And that's, you know, we're going into the COVID thing again and again. They're driving the fear machine the whole time. And now Loud has been brought into, but Loud is only 13 cases compared to, say, Dublin, who's 126 cases. So it's like the fear machine is going on all the time. And I think it's very sad. But our government nearly went into lockdown. For a few hours.
Somebody's made a comment there. We're talking about the immigration. Somebody said they've no problem with a certain amount of legal immigration. The Irish says legal immigration can be good for a country if it's controlled and legal, and everybody knows that people have come through a process. But uncontrolled immigration is not good for anything. You know,
no.
People need to have confidence in the system. And if people have come in and there's a demand for it, I would say yes, great, come in and bring your skills and be welcome to the country. Yeah. But if there's mass uncontrolled immigration, it's just a nonsense. I mean, on the refugee system, I think Dahi made the point the other day, it costs 10 times as much to help a person to bring them over to this country and help them than it would do to help them in, say, somewhere like Jordan, you know, which is closer to. So you could help 10 times as many if they were in a safer country near where they were. So you have to wonder, is it all about helping people, or is it just about an ideological shift of people from those countries into this country? That's what I think it's about.
I have to ask them, what have they got against the Irish that they want to get rid of us? I mean, how many times have they tried to do this and we're still here? I mean, why not let us grow as a population and give us the family incentives?
They don't want it. They want to get rid of the indigenous peoples of every country in Europe. It's part of their agenda. They want rid of us. Simple as that. They hate the Irish people. They want rid of Ireland, Irish from Ireland. They want rid of the British from Britain, so they can control everybody and have a mishmash of everything, of nothingness. That's it.
What we need to do and what we need to think about.
Coveney seems like he hates the Irish people.
And he doesn't want us having an Irish flag. It's supposed to be used the Irish flag at any event. I mean, that's our flag.
Yeah.
Same with the British have their flag, the French have their flag, and so on. And everyone has their own flag.
They'd rather we had the rainbow flag or something like that.
And the EU flag, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you just see every time they're on the TV, they're standing behind the EU flag, or that's their flag. Somebody is saying there, do you reckon the coalition will collapse? Yeah, it could collapse any time.
Yeah. It's
anything.
shaky. It's very shaky. I mean,
It's,
they're
stumble,
losing.
it's stumbling
Yeah.
along. Somebody's saying they're disappointed with the sectarian direction of another nationalist party has taken. Yeah, I think that they're very sectarian. Yeah, we're
The
clearly not.
National Party, is it?
Uh,
Yeah,
no, he hasn't mentioned them, but I think I know who he might be talking about.
yeah. I mean, the reason why, I mean, me and you joined the Irish Freedom Party is because we're strong in Irish eggs, and the only way we're going to have any independence is get away from the EU. And you know, I'm just thinking about, you know, like our government. I mean, since it came on board, they've lost two members of their government. You know, between different reasons. So it's kind of it's more than shaky, and then they don't know what they're doing in relation to one does not listen to the other. I mean, Leo Varadkar came out with a statement the other night, and then the experts come out and said, "Listen, where is he getting this information from?" So there's no coherence of their information, even from the COVID point of view. So there's a mishmash of wherever goes. How do we make these people comply? How do we make these people stay at home? How do we make these people, you know, be controlled? So it's going to fall, and
And I
you
will,
know,
we're seeing really bad scenes of students in Belfast going mental around the Holy Land area. I mean,
yeah, the
that's
same,
mayhem.
yeah.
That's mayhem. I mean, we can't have that either. You know, that's they could that's going to spread the blinking thing.
Mm.
Uh, that's just showing disregard for everybody. You know, they're going to be bringing that back to elderly people and stuff. So we can't have that either. I mean, probably. I suppose if the pubs were open to a certain extent, control that might not happen, but it's not. It's not the answer either. Um, don't know if you saw that in the news. It's been big news for a long time. That the Holy Lands in South Belfast.
Yeah, but they're attacking local councils and attacking the police, which I obviously don't agree with. But obviously I don't know. Maybe they need a task force. Maybe a stronger. Sometimes the basics work. A stronger police presence until they get the message. Oh, we can't do what we want. Basic police work can sometimes work wonders. A police presence in the area, whether it's in the evenings, weekends, when it happens, whether it's drinking, whether it's public order issues, is it violence, is it vandalism, is it just, you know, harassing the neighbours, wherever it is that's going on. I mean, apart from the issue of spreading COVID and things like that, there's a whole wide range because there's a public order issue as well as a health issue. So, I mean, going back to basics and maybe having a team of community police being in there constantly can knock it on the head, and then it sends a clear message to young people. We want them to enjoy university life. They're probably first away from home, first year students or second year students, and they're just running wild. But at the
But
same time, they have to enjoy the university.
that's
University.
becoming that's an antisocial behavior problem as
Yeah,
well.
exactly, and we don't
Far
want to see it
more.
anywhere.
No, I mean that's out of control. It's been like that a long time. It's a blink. It is
Yeah.
it's a disgrace where those students are going on. That's a residential area.
Mm.
It's an absolute disgrace the way they're going on like that. And there are
But
restrictions in
sometimes,
place. You know,
like, I'm
no,
not
they're
actually.
creating an absolute antisocial problem for those residents that are living
Mm,
there. It's not acceptable.
yeah.
Anyway, somebody's saying, do you guys believe in the lockdowns? Well, initially,
Yeah.
but now it's perhaps going to the stage where the figures aren't supporting the evidence for it, maybe.
No.
Um, so maybe for the older people, but it does seem that it's crashing the economy, and maybe if you let ease up a little bit more on it, it might be better in the long run. I want to just touch on it. What do you think about that? I'm sure you would agree with
Well, the
that.
lockdown, I mean, the numbers don't, we've seen recently it's only 100 people who are actually died of COVID. And it's been recently over the last week, or another nationalist who used to be with us, Ben Gilroy, who said it's 100 people who are actually died. So their figures are not matching what they're saying. It's become a case-driven situation.
But is
And
that
they're not looking
out of
at.
that 100? Out of that 100, were they not very few of them actually had another condition, or was that?
Yes, exactly. So it's not really driven by COVID only cases. So a lot of them, and then if you look at their age group, it's 84. So they're going past the average life expectancy.
Yeah.
So it's young people are not dying. Yeah, they might get the disease. They're not dying, and the case people are dying is quite low. It's under 10. It used to be well over that. On both sides, north and south. But it's like 3 people might die. You might go days where people die, and that's no disrespect. People who have members who have died in the last few months. So they're driving the cases as if it's a stick to beat people, Irish people with. We can't have that because, yes, if you do a test on a coronavirus, you're going to pick up coronavirus. If I've done a test, you're going to pick something up on me. It won't be necessarily negative or positive, but coronavirus is a family, and they're not necessarily testing for coronavirus 19. COVID-19. So we need kind of a proper test. The test isn't actually correct. So you're trying to use the COVID test as a stick to beat with, we've 100 cases, or Dublin is worse than Waterford, or whatever. We're going to lock down in Dublin and we're going to open Waterford, or whatever. It's kind of like they're threatening different counties. And what I was listening to the radio earlier today, and they're saying Dublin has become the laughing stock of the country. Now, I'm sorry, but Dublin is the biggest population in the whole country, so naturally enough, more people are going to be positive compared to, say, somewhere in Louth or Meath or in the Midlands. So we need to see past the fear. There's less deaths, more cases, and the more people who get tested, the more people who get positive. And we need to educate people about their immune systems and their nutrition. That's what we need to do. People are not doing that. They're forgetting they have an immune system. And I would feel very strongly about that. And I think, we need to kind of push the message that the COVID situation is affecting our economy. It's affecting our mental health because people are separated from families. People are trying to get things done like communions. Even now, communions have been pushed back, family arrangements, family occasions. Nothing is going normally. And just when you think the pubs are going to open, the people in this country who are actually in serious trouble, not fault their own, pubs are now being pushed back again 4 times this year. They're meant to open now next Monday, the 21st, and now they've been pushed back again. That means they're going to be in serious debt. No amount of money given to them will get them out of it, and they'll always be in debt. And some pubs will not open at all. So we really need to support them. And we need to galvanise the pub owners some way. They need to get together themselves. So what do you think about that? Is there anything we can do to kind of galvanise the pub owners and people who are really struggling? Some shops are not struggling and other places are. Taxi drivers, they're in trouble. They were out yesterday. They blocked off the whole city in Dublin. So the whole place is a mess. And the government is saying, don't protest it, don't do this, and stay indoors, and close that county down, open that county up. They're done. They behave themselves. You be like them. Like they're treating each county like children. Like, okay, they behave themselves, but you're not behaving yourself. We're going to close you down for 3 weeks. That's not right. That's not how you run a country. So the more people the more we get out and tell people that we're here, we're going against the lockdown, we're going against
right, DT.
COVID. DT. DT is there. Hi.
Fortress Jack. What do you think about this, DT?
A cigarette. Welcome back.
I see you've been offline.
How's it going?
I'm going to get a wee glass of water for a second. Just chat amongst yourselves for a second.
How are you keeping?
Oh, hello, Karen. Welcome back to the internet for DT, I suppose. Basically, I took down my channel because of the situation, but I'm back. I started my channel back up again.
Good.
Isn't it? Well, I don't really see it as that big of a big deal, but there's plenty of people making YouTube videos now, and I suppose like the title of your live stream tonight was about the growth in the Irish Freedom Party, and or it was in the description of the video anyway. And I just want to say, the nationalist movement is growing. It's growing. That's definite. I remember last year they were trying to get people to go to protests and confront all these antifas that were, intimidating them on the internet and threatening them on the internet. So the idea was to go and do a protest and just show defiance to all these antifas that were threatening them on the internet. right?
Yeah.
And there was about like I think I don't know how many people was at the first one. There was about I said it was a few dozen or probably 100 and something around at the first one. Like, and then there was things outside the doll, and then there was a few hundred at it, and then there was like even recently like the anti-pedophilia rally where the National Party were there was at least 1,000 people at that, probably 2,000 at that, and then this thing outside the Custom House, there was at least probably 5,000 at that.
Yeah.
And then again, just the last few days, there was probably even double that again, marching to, I don't know where they were marching to at that time, like, but like it's grown, like, you know what I mean? It started off with just the idea to just get out on the street and start protesting, and then like this, what situation have we got now? Like, we've got a situation where there's literally a crowd that's as big as the Irish military, all with tricolours and patriotically minded.
Yeah.
You know, like just protesting against the government. Like, so like they're gonna find it absolutely impossible to contain this. The idea of containing it was to stop these people even getting together in the first place, but they've absolutely failed to contain. They failed to contain it. They were trying to eradicate any nationalist parties from starting up, even existing at the very start years ago. I remember that. But there's a few nationalist parties now, and now there's several thousand people marching in these protests. So fair play to you. Like, you know, I was just saying, Cathal, about the description of the video that this is that you have on your channel of this stream. You're saying about the growth in the Irish Freedom Party, like, and I well believe it. Like, there's huge growth in the nationalist parties, like. You know.
Yeah, I mean, so with the lockdown thing, and we had a few bumps in the road there. We were out canvassing in Belfast, and people were attacking us and stuff. With all that there, the growth's gone through the roof. It's almost hard to keep up with it at times, you know. But it's all publicity. We don't want that sort of thing, but it happens. But it's causing growth to the party. What we're talking about earlier, before you came in, about this business of a new city being created in Louth. Have you heard about that? They're bringing 50,000 people from Hong Kong in to this brand new city. Have you heard of that one?
No, I only seen her in the YouTube comments there. Some people talking about it, but like
it's crazy. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like they're building a new city in County Louth, is it?
Yeah.
With 50,000 people, for 50,000 Hong Kong people to come in. I mean, you couldn't make this up, you know.
Yeah.
Never mind the people.
Yeah, it's just another plantation of the country. Like, it's literally a colony of. Well, it's not a colony. You could say it's a colony of China, but then they're supposed to be independent, but they're not independent anymore because the British government had to hand them back to China after China became a superpower. Yeah. So China is on the road to becoming, like, if not the number one superpower, to becoming the number 2 or the number 3, and along with Russia and America. So they had to hand it back. Like, who's the UK? The UK is not really that relevant, like, technologically or economically or militarily. They're a small country that historically they had a huge empire, but their empire collapsed basically, and they had to democratize and decentralize the whole thing with the Commonwealth. They turned it into the Commonwealth instead of the empire. But one place that they have, the British have massive influence, is Ireland, just because of the proximity and because of the colonization and the plantations of Ireland and the cultural assimilation of the Irish. One place that the British still have massive influence is Ireland. And I might could be going off on a tangent here, but in Ireland there's kind of a little nucleus of aristocracy, a little bubble, which is the upper classes, basically, kind of an aristocracy, and they're sort of like sort of continuing the tradition of being West Brits, where if there's anyone that's going to stand against this country's sovereignty or against the rights of the average paddy on the street or whatever, if there's anyone that's going to stand against it, it's going to be the aristocracy, because their entire establishment is based on basically, how do you put this, like, basically keeping the Irish ambitions for a nation that a nation that's respectable in the international community, and keeping the Irish ambitions on a low level, right? Keeping the Irish down, and that means suppressing them and sabotaging them and lots of corruption and everything. Keeping the Irish down, so that Ireland never achieves the kind of internal self-respect in the Irish psyche, which would allow us to break away from the cultural assimilation of Britain. And they need that cultural assimilation from Britain, because their entire regime is built on it. The entire economy is hijacked basically by the friends of this regime. It's a cartel, and they need this cultural assimilation, because the cultural assimilation with the UK is one thing that keeps the Irish ambitions and self-respect in our psyche down, and it's one thing that that's how they're undermining our sovereignty, right? They're undermining our sovereignty by convincing us that we're still basically a colony. Well, we broke away like 100 years ago, but we're still living as if we're a colony.
Yeah.
Well, an interesting,
it
is interesting, that point. I mean, just something that I wanted to touch on as well. You know, there are some people, take the way England has gone. England does not represent much. It doesn't look very British. It's not very English. There's a lot of the cities, including London, Birmingham, Bradford, they're all non-English, and a lot of some unionist people, not all, but some unionist people in the north are actually saying that, look, maybe it's time that Scotland broke away from England and had an independent Scotland, free from England and the EU, and then maybe Northern Ireland could do business with the rest of Ireland and have an independence that way, because England's basically gone, and maybe it's time to face facts there, you know. I thought that was quite interesting. I thought that was quite interesting. And these are some people from the loyalist community up in the north are actually saying that it's time maybe they faced up to the fact that, look, England is not English anymore, but Scotland is kind of still Scottish, and Ireland is still pretty Irish, but although it's heading in the wrong direction. It's just about like, but it's heading in the wrong direction. But if we got our act together and did business with some of these thinkers, maybe it would be better for everybody. What do you think about that?
Well, there was can I just say there was a referendum in Scotland for a Scottish independence referendum. Do you remember that? I don't know when that was, but it was a few years ago anyway. And people were saying that was rigged. There was allegations that was rigged, like it was rigged by MI5, basically.
The thing about that one too is the Scottish Nationalist Party are a bit of a fake nationalist party, because they're pro-EU. They're like the nationalist parties up the north. They're not nationalists at all. But a lot of those people that vote for Scottish independence wouldn't be pro-EU either. So if they got their act together and says that we want proper independence away from the EU, because it would just become a colony of the EU if it left Britain.
Just the thing about Scotland is, like, Scotland could be a very rich country if it wanted to be, because it has massive oil reserves.
And we
like
could be as well.
Oh yeah, Ireland could be a very rich country as well, because
it could be like Norway.
Ireland has a huge amount of natural resources, and actually one of the biggest resources that we have is the fishing waters, where we have the biggest fishing zone in Europe. But the problem is, if they join the EU, the EU gets your stuff. We don't get it. The EU gets it.
The EU take it. Yeah, the EU plunder the fish. They take the oil. They take everything. They take the people. They put borders, and that's the problem. If you get away from the EU, stop giving them their blood money, you'd be far better off.
And basically it all goes to subsidize Germany. Just like the whole thing with the euro. What was it? I don't know what it's called, the exchange rate of the euro or something like that, or the kind of the interest rate of the euro, or something. There's some economic thing where all the countries in the EU zone have to harmonize their currency with the values of Germany. So the whole EU zone is making the economy work in such a way that boosts Germany artificially and deprives everybody else. Not if that wasn't bad enough, what about us paying the debt of the Franco-German banks when they went bust, like the bank bailouts, and as well as that, the confiscating our fishing waters and confiscating the oil and the gas and off the west coast and everything. Like it's like the EU basically pillages whoever joins it. And if you're a small country, you don't get much say in the European Parliament, and the European Parliament is just a sham anyway.
Exactly, it's only a talking shop. Talking shop. I mean, the decisions are made at the Commission and Parliament. Commission and Council level, not at the Parliament. The Parliament's a talking shop. And your woman Mairead McGuinness gets all her big, massive salaries and her expenses. And I'd like to ask a question: did anybody vote for her to get into that job?
No.
Not one person.
And she has her own little thing and her own land. I mean, she doesn't even have to go out to Dublin to have a clinic. It's on our own land, and she claims expenses, and she's getting all this money. Now, I know she didn't get the trade job that Phil Hogan had, but still, she's put into that job. It's finances, I think she got. Yeah. But she's getting all this money, and no, we didn't vote for her. She's no reason for her to be there. And I know when you lose a commissioner, it kind of upsets the apple cart, so to speak. But she's milking it. She's milking it completely. It doesn't serve anybody.
That voice, it goes on and on and on, droning away in that bloody voice of hers, repeating the same point over and over again, But it's just fun. I want to make just a point about just the vote, the Brexit vote. It is funny though that England itself voted against the EU, but it's basically become very non-English. But Scotland voted to remain in the EU, but it's actually still quite Scottish. It's funny that, isn't it?
Yeah, it had on to its culture, and its music and its history, Yeah,
I think once Scotland and probably the North get overcome by globalism, I think they might change their tune about the EU, the way England has,
Well, that's the thing. Like according to like what's annoying the people. Like people that usually get involved in politics and then usually look into kind of stuff like nationalism when the situation turns so bad that they want an alternative. They don't want to just sleepwalk into voting for the main parties over and over again for no reason. Like they want to actually stand for idealism. And like one of the things that provokes idealism is actually disasters and tragedies. It's as if like something horrible happens and you say, oh well, like something horrible happens, and then you say, like, how could we have fixed this? Like, and what's the best that we could have done for that person or in that situation? Like, this is where the idealism comes in. It's sort of a backlash against disaster. And with the Irish mass immigration situation, where the Irish will be a minority in about 20 years in their own country, that's gonna there's only going to be more and more people being drawn to the nationalist side, and and what's going to help that, ironically, is going to be us being denounced by the state media and by the extreme left and stuff. Like when they're denouncing us, they nonetheless have to mention our name. And just on a side note, I got doxed myself there recently, but I don't care, right? But when they're denouncing us, when the enemies are denouncing us, they nonetheless have to mention our name, so that it's as if in the ingredients of everything that they want to do against us is the ingredients of potential support for us, because they're denouncing us for all these things, which actually a lot of people agree with, right? So it's like your man from Ryanair, his quote, like, no publicity is bad publicity, and it's kind of true in a kind of
Well, that's what we were saying. We got a lot of publicity out of that attack. Few attacks that we had, and it was letters and articles put in the papers about it. So we got a lot of publicity, and it was all very positive and sympathetic. So the silent majority are on our side, and the reason I think these people that attack people, they can't be that angry. They're so angry is because they know we're right. They can't be that angry. They don't attack other parties. They attack us because they know they have an insecurity complex because they know that people are going to vote for us and they're going to be getting votes, and they don't like that. And they are the fascists. Shutting down free speech is fascism.
It's also communism, but anyway, what I was going to say,
totalitarianism.
It's some sort of totalitarianism. It's some sort of moral orthodoxy shoved down everybody's throat. It's totalitarianism.
I mean, you don't have to agree with somebody, but some of the point is some of these guys actually said that they're pro-Ireland and they're anti-EU. Well, why don't they have a conversation with us and we could do business with them? I mean, we don't agree on everything, but we agree on some of the fundamentals. So they say they want to be out of the EU, fine. They say they're pro-Ireland, that's what we are. Well, then, I mean, let's have a conversation and we can have it in Irish. Some of these guys speak Irish, so let's chat about it. I mean, we shouldn't really be enemies here, you know. So there must be some other forces at power. I don't know.
Oh yeah, well, some of the extreme lefty politicians, such as Luke Ming Flanagan, he basically has a long history of opposing the EU, but he's part of the extreme left. So like he's obviously like it's as if he hasn't figured out yet that the extreme left is pro EU. So is kind of a conflict of interest there. Like on the one hand, he's against them, and on the other hand, he's part of the extreme left. So it looks like hypocrisy, you know.
The irony was with the far left, if you like, back in the 70s, the Tony Benns and all that. They were the ones that spoke out against joining the EU, and they actually spoke out against mass immigration as well, because they said bringing people in from elsewhere is going to drive down the working man's wage. So we're not saying
that has happened. That's
happened. We're not saying anything different to what those guys said, and they were on the left wing then. So these loony left ones that are attacking us, they've no sense of themselves, you know.
Yeah, it's like
in the unions too. The unions have come part of that, even though the unions might say, "Oh, we're fighting for your rights," but they don't really do enough. They only do a little bit, and it shows when they're going to go into agreement with the pay agreements, which is due now at the end of the year. You know what I mean? So they don't really do enough to kind of go with what the government is saying, and they sell it back to us. And the drip thing we get, you know, we took some money off you a few years ago. We're going to give it back to you, but it's going to be a tiny little bit every time. So they're keeping their wages very, very low. Now, I know I work in the public sector, so not too bad, but all these zero contracts, they're popping up everywhere, like Deliveroo and Just Eat and all those, you know, Dunn Stores, all those are zero contracts, which you see more of now than I was when I was working in Dunn's in the 90s. So, you know, we're seeing more of them than we ever did, and people seem to accept them for some reason. And it doesn't serve anybody.
Karen,
a zero contract unless you want to.
I was going to say, Karen, that thing that the unions done, benchmarking, that was just a complete sellout of the philosophy of trade unions. Like it was basically them entering into an agreement with the government. Like, but this goes back to the transformation of leftism in general, and there's some sort of corporatism, or some sort of weighing of the establishment, where it's like the left used to be
quite noble.
It used to be against mass immigration as well. It used to be for
the worker. It used to be for working class.
It was against the EU. It was the Tories that took us into the EU, took Britain into the EU.
Yeah, it was supposed to. Even
were against the mass globalization then, but they were a noble cause then. But now they're just a blinking loony left, pro LGBT education in schools, pro gay marriage, pro radical feminism, mass immigration, going against everything what it's supposed to have been about. Actually, that's why I turned against it. I turned away from it. I thought, this isn't me. This isn't me. The way this is heading, you know.
Well, me neither. Like I used to be in the Communist Party, so what does that tell you about me? Like, but then I went through a phase, and then but the thing is, leftism used to be for closed borders and for the benefit of the working class. That's what they portray themselves as. But those credentials don't work anymore, because the credentials of being for the working class don't square with this policy that they have of open borders, which deprives the working class of so many practical things like accommodation and jobs and healthcare and all this. And it's bad for the natives, and it's bad for the immigrants as well, because they have to acclimatize to an unfamiliar environment, and you know. But the thing is, even simple truths that like you could help so many more refugees in their own country. You could have 12,
but it's
12
cheaper as well.
That's
I
right.
that earlier on.
Yeah, it costs 10 times the amount of money to bring them over here than it does to help them in their own countries. So just do the maths. I mean, it's all about population replacement. But anyway, somebody just said a comment there about that the Yellow Vest March in Dublin there about that there were Palestinian flags at it. What do you think about that? I was unsure
I'm not
about that myself.
Sure
I mean,
about.
I wasn't sure about all that. It's not really pro-Ireland.
To me, I thought the Yellow Vests were for Ireland. So when they say bring your own national flag, I mean Irish flag. So they really shouldn't be bringing any flag, only the Irish flag to those rallies. So when I looked at the footage, it was American, there was Palestinian, there was other flags there that weren't anything to do with
EU flags.
When you come to the pro-Irish. Sorry?
I mean, there'll be EU and LGBT flags at it next. It's becoming something that it's not. No, and this is where it's going. Like, I know I didn't like that.
Confused me.
It confused
me. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds a bit like it's heading a wee bit neutral. It's wimping out a wee bit on what it's supposed to be, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm kind of disappointed. I mean, I do admire what they're doing, but they're kind of undermining themselves, because if you want to fight for your country, you have to fight for your country. And I mean fight for your country. I mean not bring in nationalities and national flags. It has to be Irish. And you're fighting for your rights, like, your free speech and movement and health and, housing and all that kind of stuff that they stand for. You're fighting for Irish people. You're fighting for your country and the freedom to move around.
See, maybe the Yellow Vests are being a wee bit sitting on the fence. Somebody's making a point there that maybe the Yellow Vests should choose a side, because everybody that's going along to those marches, I mean, you've got Dolores was there, Ben Gilroy, Niall. Maybe they should pick a side, the Yellow Vests, and stop remaining neutral. What do you think about that?
Well, they're supporting. I mean, they support us to certain, and obviously they can't kind of like, they're not a front for us, but they do like our policies. But at the same time, if I know they're not a party, they're a people's movement, and they tend to kind of go with the flow of whatever's going on at the moment. They're answering to the needs of the Irish in the sense that, okay, there's a problem here. We have a COVID situation and we have a problem with free speech, we have a problem with a lot of things, but they have to kind of have a basis of what they do, and that is staying true to Irish. And bringing in a lot of flag to a rally is not right, because it confuses what they mean. Because if I was not clued into what was going on, I was thinking, what kind of movement is it really? I would actually get confused myself. So I was a bit surprised they said, bring your national flag. Palestinian flag is not an Irish flag. It's a completely different flag.
I hate seeing it at GAA matches and stuff too. The Palestinian flag. I mean, it used to be you'd have seen the odd American flag and stuff for a bit of colour. If it was Cork playing in red, you'd see the American flag. But now they're bringing Palestinian flags, which they're trying to politicize the GAA. The GAA has sold out as well by the Croke Park thing, by the way, isn't it? Did you see that, DT? The Croke Park thing?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's actually, I have serious concerns about that at so many levels.
About the Islam thing at Croke Park?
In July.
A big massive festival was held. What was it called?
The Eid Festival.
Eves?
Yeah,
Eid.
The Eid Festival. Where they pray and they celebrate. A bit like, suppose we celebrate Easter, I suppose. It'd be their kind of celebration in their own religion. But there's so many things wrong with that. One, it's a front to Irish people. It's in the grounds where we have a strong history with our past regarding the rebellion in 1916. It's where we play our national games. It's an Irish centre for culture. And we can't even have our All Ireland hockey or hurling or GA soccer, nothing this year. But yet they were allowed to. 200 of them are allowed to go in there and pray. That's an affront. That is not. Islam has nothing to do with Ireland, but yet they were allowed to go in on that Friday. I think it was
Karen,
the
it's not
21st of
hockey.
July, as far as I know.
It's not hockey. It's not GAA.
Hockey, sorry, hurling, sorry.
Hurling.
Yeah, sorry. I just but I was trying to think of all the games that are related to Irish that we're not allowed to do this year. It's actually disgraceful. I mean, how can you let, on top of that, we've got
Islam cannot be destroyed. You have to let Islam get its way.
Yeah, it's just it's just one of the things that you're going to have to get used to in a modern Ireland, basically. And that's where a lot of Irish people haven't realised yet, is that we're all this mass immigration. They're going to be bringing their own traditions and their own religions, and like it's not going to exactly fit into the kind of the traditional Civil War paradigm of Ireland. It's not like Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, and Sinn Féin. Like it's not like these new people to Ireland. They're not going to fit into that paradigm at all in any way. They're not going to fit in ethnically or religiously or politically or historically or anyway. They're not going to fit into that at all. And
I mean, this one of the spokesmen at that thing says that he wants to live in an Islamic country. He said, this is just a factual report. He said he wants to live in an Islamic country, and he says he sees his home from now on in Ireland. So you can work that one out yourselves.
And if it happens once, what's going to happen next year? That's what's more disturbing. It's like we're going to prepare you for an Islamic infiltration, and next thing you know, we pray in your Irish grounds. You're going to let us in, and next thing you'll do it next year, and there'll be something else. And also on top of that, and it was pointed out by somebody else, I think it was Niall O'Connell, he confronted an imam who was allowed to pray in an Irish Catholic church. Now, I'm not religious. I'm not into, people can go there and pray every Sunday if they want. But I don't want to see an imam in an Irish Catholic church. I'm sorry. And I do respect people's religions, but the Islam culture is completely at odds with the Western culture.
Yeah.
Whether religious or not, you don't have to be religious, because it's not just a religion. It's like a whole way of life.
Yeah.
For women, especially
it's record on women's rights. It's appalling. And yet, where are the feminists talking up about that? They never say anything about that. They give a by ball to it. They should be calling out the Islamic treatment of women. I mean,
yeah, but the thing is, like, the Islam has a weird alliance with the extreme left.
Exactly.
But just I think it's basically based on the fact that they're both authoritarians, and like the Muslims are not Caucasian. They're not Caucasian, most of them. So like the left wants to virtue signal and show how not racist it is by endorsing Muslim immigration, which actually the essence of it is that like you're bringing literally millions of people to Europe who have a completely diametrically opposed belief system and lifestyle to leftism in general. So like they're destroying the left is destroying itself basically. But like, I mean, like the left is like, not only did the left sell out with all their principles and stuff, they sold out when they endorsed the mission of the corporations, which was to open borders, to drive down the wages. They sold out when they betrayed the working class in that way, right? So when they became open borders for the corporations, that's how they sold out. When they endorsed all this LGBT stuff, that's how they polluted their own ranks and basically made leftism in general a kind of reserve cult of perverts, right? It's kind of like a sweet little cult for these perverts to go to, where they can proclaim moral superiority over the whole population. And because they're allies with the establishment, the left is allies with the establishment now. They can have the establishment come down like a ton of bricks and impose their perversions on the whole population, right? So this is how the left has betrayed. It's betrayed the working class by not only making an alliance with the establishment, becoming a wing of the establishment, taking money off the establishment, supporting open borders for the benefit of corporations, endorsing all this LGBT stuff, right? That's how they portray the working class in that way. And like a lot of these policies, like LGBT and abortion and open borders, are actually most destructive to the working class, right? Like, and it's actually the working class as well who would be the people that would be most uncouth, the people that would be most honest about their disgust of certain things and lifestyles and practices, right? And they're the ones that's going to get hit the hardest with the hate crime speech that the left is bringing in. So the left is actually censoring us as well at the same time, right? And as well, and like the other thing is, they've a weird alliance with the Muslims just because they're not Caucasian, just because they're foreigners, right? But the Muslims actually have a diametrically opposed lifestyle and belief system and everything, and they're absolute fanatics about it, right? And like if the left doesn't destroy itself, if it's not completely hijacked into becoming null and mute already, right? And if the Caucasians become a minority of their country and then Islam becomes dominant, that's how the left is permanently destroyed. Because like in the Muslim countries, there is none. You don't get this. You don't get this sexual perversions. You don't get these. There's like abortion. You don't get this transgender stuff. You don't get this whatever else, open borders. You don't get all this in the Muslim countries, and Islam is becoming more radicalized worldwide, right? Because like they're getting stronger and they're rejecting Western influence. So I think actually the idea of imposing Western values onto the Muslim world would be wrong. I think we should let them live as they want to live.
Yeah.
For the reason is that I want them to be stronger against the Anglo-American Empire, which is going to collapse anyway. So we're going to have to tolerate them living as they want. I don't see why we should interfere in the Muslim world at all. There's nothing got to do with us. Like, we're so far away. We have our own oil, so we don't even need them. Like, but it's just like the American Empire wants to basically corrupt the whole world with its lifestyle of extreme libertarianism, extreme sexual perversions and stuff, and degeneracy. The Western Empire wants to pollute the whole world with all this stuff, and it's going to fail because not only does this stuff not perpetuate itself, not only is it self-destructive, it's going to fail because everybody else is getting stronger, even stronger than them. So like the American Empire is going to collapse anyway. So we're just going to have to be a bit cautious about basically trying to impose Western lifestyle onto people from very conservative countries. We're not going to be able to maintain that influence in the future because not only is Europe in decline, but America is in decline as well. The entire West is in decline. Eastern Europe will be all right, but Western Europe will be doomed.
Eastern Europe, you can see some glimpses of it. I mean, take Poland, Czech Republic,
Hungary,
what do you call it? Croatia. You see, they're basically ethnic there, but the total West of Europe is just completely gone. And sadly to speak, some of the comments are talking about Dublin. It's just gone. It's centre of Dublin. It's just not. It's unrecognizable. That's going to really. That's true. It's going to really damage the industries of Ireland, the tourism industry, etc., etc. But there is this crazy alliance between Islam and LGBT. It's a crazy left-wing alliance there when you think that they'd be completely against each other, But they kind of form this uneasy alliance,
But what James is saying there, if just saying there Ireland became Islamic, I'm telling you, left would be gone in the sense that it wouldn't be allowed to be gay. You wouldn't be allowed to be, you wouldn't be allowed to do any of that. So they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot by supporting that kind of, idealism. You wouldn't be allowed to do any, you'd be hung, actually. They wouldn't tolerate abortion. They wouldn't tolerate any of that kind of stuff. But regarding what you were saying, DT, about, not posing, our Western values on Islam, I get that. The only thing is, they're coming to our country and they're imposing their will on us. Because if they're allowed by our Catholic Church and by the GAA, which has pretty much sold us out by having them in our grounds and GAA praying, that's the first step. And that worries me a great deal. And I'm shocked that there's some people there protesting JAMA and one or two of our own. There wasn't enough people there. There wasn't enough people there protesting. Irish people are too compliant and too dumbed down that they don't realise what's going on in their own nose. They're watching on COVID, but they're not watching the other stuff that's going on underneath, which is Islam. And we might not have the problem of, the way it is in England, Islamic zones. But that's all. It's only time. That's the problem. It's only time before it happens.
Yeah, I mean, did you see that program?
I'm in Dublin every day. What are you saying there, Paul?
I mean, the program was on the other night. You mentioned that the new Gales RTE.
Yes.
I mean, I watched a wee bit of it. Like, I mean, you'd have to be a very hard-hearted person to not welcome in people that are refugees. Of course, I'm the first one to welcome refugees in that are genuine. But that program just became propaganda for Black Lives Matter because they tied it in with all the ones that were overplaying GA now who were foreign are pro Black Lives Matter, which is not necessarily true. So that just makes it a case for propaganda for that. And the Black Lives Matter thing, I mean, half the Black America are rejecting it because they're only picking and choosing the Black lives that they care about. You know, if they cared about Black Lives Matter, I mean, what about all the ones that are killed by black police officers? And they don't say anything about that.
Yeah.
You know, Obama never called out any of those killings that happened on his watch when he was president, you know.
You know, and I don't like the fact that people who are, you know, like white people or whatever, are bowing to this Black Lives kind of like symbolism, very, you know, in football matches and
very disturbing.
Kneeling. I don't agree with that.
I mean, there's something very disturbing about that. You know, what way are we going? What direction are we going here? Everybody hates racism. We don't like racism, but you can't be black. The BLM thing is inherently racist. It's against white people.
And we went had a bit of that in Drogheda, you know, recently, you know, a lot of young people came in through and they kind of intimidated the Drogheda people one evening. Now, not as big as the one that happened in Dublin, but still, it is spreading. And I think when it started off a few years ago, it wasn't a big deal, but now it's kind of like it's been sucked in. And I'm going to say something here. 2 weeks ago, I was down visiting my parents and watching that program. It's Britain's Got Talent, and you know that program, you know that group called Diversity? They done a whole dance around the Black Lives Matter. I think they got criticised because of it. Now, I'm not sure of the complaints, but they did get complaints about it. Now, it was good in the sense it was very well choreographed, but again, it was pushing the BLM agenda. I know they're very talented dancers in that group, but they're pushing that BLM agenda through art. And I'm going, it's going to continue. And I mean, all lives matter. I mean, I know black people have been enslaved. Irish people we've had our own problems. Up until, you know, even now we have our own problems. But we're not pushing Irish lives matter over everybody else. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, Black lives matter, white lives matter, Australian lives matter, Indian lives matter, everybody matters. But the Black Lives thing, kneeling a football match, I'm sorry. When the games come back on and the fans go back to the stadium.
I don't think the fans will tolerate that. That's why they're getting away.
I hope not.
They're getting away with that at the minute because there's no fans at the games. I think the fans won't tolerate that.
When the fans come back to the stadiums to see their local teams play and the big Premier Leagues and the local matches, if the players start kneeling for this Black Lives Matter symbolism thing before a game even starts, the fans should turn around and say boo and just tell them to stop. It shouldn't be.
I think they'll start
football.
Booing it.
It's football.
Yeah.
Football is football. That's
it. I think they'll start booing it. I do.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
Was it Halifax? Well, listen, guys. It's been a good old debate tonight, actually, and we've got quite a few viewers and quite a lot of good comments there. And I'll post that all up online. You can sort of sift through them. But look, I'm thinking I might sign off now. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, DT, for coming on. Welcome back.
We'll see you for the next one, DT. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sure, no problem. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I'll talk to you next time, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, look, I'm just going to wrap this up then, guys. Okay, so it's been a good old chat. So until the next time, good and Kira, Ella.
Yeah, Cathal and Ihawa TT.
Slán a Carja.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.